The sound of a rifle shot echoed through the Montana wilderness, startling Zara Daniels from her fitful slumber on the rough-hewn porch of the abandoned homestead. Her stomach clenched painfully, both from fear and the gnawing hunger that had been her constant companion for days. The year was 1876, and the promise of opportunity that had lured her west had evaporated like morning dew under the harsh summer sun. Zara pulled her threadbare shawl tighter around her shoulders, trying to ignore the dizzy spell that threatened to overtake her as she sat up. 3 days without food had left her weak, her once vibrant emerald eyes now dull and sunken in her pale face. At 22, she had already endured more hardship than most people faced in a lifetime. "Don't move," a deep voice commanded from the edge of the property. Zara froze, her heart hammering against her ribs as she squinted against the early morning light. A tall figure approached on horseback, rifle balanced casually across his lap. As he drew closer, she could make out his features. Sun-bronzed skin, a strong jaw shadowed with stubble, and eyes the color of a stormy sky. "This is private property," the man said, his voice softening slightly as he took in her bedraggled appearance. "I'm sorry," Zara whispered, her voice raspy from disuse. "I didn't think anyone lived here. The place looked abandoned." The man dismounted with fluid grace, tethering his horse to a post before approaching. He was dressed in practical ranching attire-worn denim, a faded cotton shirt, and a wide-brimmed hat that cast shadows across his face. "Nobody does live here, but it's part of my range," he explained. "I'm Dawson Archer." "Zara Daniels," she replied, attempting to stand but swaying dangerously. Dawson moved with surprising speed, catching her elbow before she could fall. "When's the last time you ate, Miss Daniels?" Shame burned in her cheeks as she avoided his gaze. "A few days ago. I ran out of money in town and the stagecoach left without me." Dawson studied her face for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, with quiet determination, he declared, "You'll never miss another meal as long as I have anything to say about it." Before Zara could protest, he guided her to his horse and helped her mount. "My ranch is just over that ridge. We'll get you fed and sorted out." The Archer Ranch sprawled across a verdant valley, a testament to hard work and determination. The main house was modest but well-built, with smoke curling from the chimney in welcome. As they approached, an older woman emerged onto the porch, her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. "Dawson, I wasn't expecting you back so soon, and who's this?" "Mrs. Cooper, this is Miss Daniels. She needs breakfast and a place to rest," Dawson explained, helping Zara dismount. The housekeeper's eyes softened with understanding. "Of course. Come in, dear. You look like you haven't had a proper meal in ages." Inside, the house was warm and inviting, with simple furnishings that spoke of practicality rather than ostentation. Mrs. Cooper bustled about the kitchen, setting a plate of eggs, bacon, and fresh bread before Zara, who had to force herself not to devour it all at once. "Eat slowly," Dawson advised, pouring her a cup of steaming coffee. "Your stomach needs time to remember its purpose." Zara nodded, taking measured bites despite her body's demand for more. "Why are you helping me, Mr. Archer?" Dawson sat across from her, his expression thoughtful. "My father always said a person's character is revealed by how they treat those who can offer them nothing in return." "I'm not looking for charity," Zara said, pride stiffening her spine despite her circumstances. A hint of a smile touched Dawson's lips. "Good, because I'm not offering any. Mrs. Cooper has been complaining about needing help around the house. You can work for your room and board until you decide what's next for you." Relief and gratitude washed over Zara. "I accept, thank you." After breakfast, Mrs. Cooper showed Zara to a small but clean bedroom. "Rest now," the housekeeper said kindly. "There'll be plenty of time for work tomorrow." Zara sank onto the first real bed she'd seen in weeks, tears of exhaustion and relief prickling behind her eyelids. Sleep claimed her quickly, deep and dreamless. The next morning, Zara woke to sunlight streaming through curtained windows. For a moment, she forgot where she was, until the events of the previous day came rushing back. She dressed quickly in the clean clothes Mrs. Cooper had left for her, a simple cotton dress that hung loose on her thin frame. Downstairs, she found the housekeeper kneading dough in the kitchen. "Good morning, dear. Did you sleep well?" "Better than I have in months," Zara admitted. "Please let me help you." Mrs. Cooper assessed her with kind but shrewd eyes. "You know your way around a kitchen." "My mother taught me everything she knew before she passed," Zara explained, rolling up her sleeves. "Cooking, cleaning, mending, I can do it all." "Good. The men around here work up ferocious appetites. Dawson's already out with the hands, checking the north pasture. They'll be back for dinner around noon." As they worked side by side, Zara learned that Dawson had inherited the ranch 5 years earlier when his father died. At 30, he was respected throughout the territory for his fair dealings and hard work. His mother had returned east after her husband's death, unable to bear the isolation of ranch life. "Does Mr. Archer have a wife?" Zara asked, trying to sound casual as she peeled potatoes. Mrs. Cooper chuckled. "No, though not for lack of trying on the part of every eligible young woman within 50 miles. Dawson's married to this land. Says he hasn't met a woman who could understand that commitment." When the ranch hands returned for the midday meal, Zara was struck by how different Dawson seemed among his men, relaxed, occasionally smiling, his eyes crinkling at the corners when he laughed at a joke. She served the food alongside Mrs. Cooper, acutely aware of his presence even when her back was turned. "Miss Daniels," Dawson said as the men began to file out after the meal, "would you care to see the rest of the ranch this afternoon? Mrs. Cooper can spare you for a few hours." Zara glanced at the housekeeper, who nodded encouragingly. "I'd like that very much, Mr. Archer." Dawson saddled a gentle mare for Zara, patiently helping her mount despite her assurances that she knew how to ride. "It's been a while," she admitted, "and never Western style." "You're from the East, then?" he asked as they rode side by side away from the ranch buildings. "Philadelphia." "My father was a banker," Zara explained, adjusting to the rhythm of the horse beneath her. "When he and mother died of influenza 2 years ago, I discovered he'd made some poor investments. There was nothing left." Dawson nodded, understanding in his eyes. "So you came west for a fresh start." "I was engaged to be married to my father's business partner," Zara continued, surprised at how easily the painful story flowed from her lips. "When our fortune was gone, so was he. I took what little I had and bought a ticket as far west as I could afford." "His loss," Dawson said simply, guiding his horse up a gentle slope. They crested the hill, and Zara gasped at the vista before her, rolling grasslands stretching to distant mountains, cattle dotting the landscape like mobile shadows. "It's beautiful," she breathed. "This is why I stay," Dawson said, pride evident in his voice. "This land gets into your blood, becomes part of you." Over the following weeks, Zara settled into life at the Archer Ranch. Her strength returned as she ate regular meals and her cheeks regained their color. Mrs. Cooper declared her a godsend, particularly appreciating Zara's skill with a needle when mending the endless parade of torn shirts and pants the ranch hands produced. Dawson often found reasons to be near the main house. Bringing Zara wildflowers he claimed were medicinal herbs Mrs. Cooper requested, or asking her opinion on books from his modest library. Their conversations ranged from philosophy to poetry, revealing a depth to the rancher that contradicted his rough exterior. One evening, as Zara sat on the porch darning socks, Dawson joined her, rocking quietly in the chair beside hers. "You've brought something to this place that was missing," he said after a comfortable silence. Zara looked up, her needle pausing mid-stitch. "What's that?" "Life, laughter." Dawson hesitated, then added softly, "Beauty." Heat bloomed in Zara's cheeks. "You're being kind. I'm being honest." His eyes held hers, and for a moment the world seemed to shrink to just the two of them. The moment was broken by the sound of approaching hoofbeats. A rider appeared in the yard, his horse lathered with exertion. "Archer," the man called urgently, "there's trouble." The Blackwood gang hit the Wilson place, took everything they had and burned them out. Dawson was on his feet instantly, his expression hardening. Anyone hurt? No, but they're headed this way according to their tracks, sheriffs forming a posse. I'll saddle up, Dawson replied grimly. He turned to Zara, his voice low and urgent. Stay inside, keep the doors locked. Fear clutched at her heart. Dawson, be careful. He nodded once, then strode toward the stables, calling for his men. The hours that followed were agonizing. Mrs. Cooper kept Zara busy with baking and cleaning, but her thoughts remained with Dawson and the danger he faced. The Blackwood gang was notorious throughout the territory, ruthless outlaws who took what they wanted and left destruction in their wake. Night fell, and still no word came. Zara and Mrs. Cooper sat by the fire, jumping at every sound. Finally, well past midnight, they heard horses approaching. Zara rushed to the window, relief flooding through her at the sight of Dawson dismounting in the yard, apparently unharmed. She hurried to unlock the door, but the words of welcome died on her lips when she saw the grim set of his mouth and the blood staining his sleeve. "You're hurt," she gasped, reaching for him. "It's nothing." "Bullet grazed me," he dismissed, though he didn't resist when she guided him to a chair. Mrs. Cooper brought water and bandages while Zara helped Dawson remove his shirt, her fingers trembling slightly as they brushed against his skin. "What happened?" she asked, gently cleaning the wound on his upper arm. "We caught up to them at Serpent's Pass," Dawson explained, wincing slightly. "There was a firefight. 2 of the gang are dead, including Blackwood himself, the rest scattered. And the sheriff's posse, Mrs. Cooper inquired anxiously. "One man took a bullet in the leg, but he'll recover," Dawson assured her. His eyes never left Zara's face as she worked, her expression focused and determined as she bandaged his arm. "You have steady hands," he observed. "I've had practice," she replied softly. "My father was often injured during hunting expeditions." When she finished, her hands lingered on his arm, reluctant to break the connection. "I was worried about you." Dawson covered her hand with his. "I came back, didn't I? I promised you'd never miss another meal, remember?" The following morning, Dawson announced he needed to ride into town to give his statement to the sheriff. "Would you like to come along, Miss Daniels?" he asked Zara. "I'm sure you could use some items from the mercantile." Zara gladly accepted, changing into her best dress, the one she'd arrived in, now carefully mended and cleaned. Mrs. Cooper insisted on giving her a small amount of money for necessities, despite Zara's protests. The town of Silver Creek was modest but thriving, with a main street lined with businesses catering to the surrounding ranches and farms. Dawson tied their horses outside the sheriff's office, promising to meet Zara at the mercantile once his business was concluded. Inside the store, Zara carefully selected thread, buttons, and fabric for new curtains in the kitchen. The proprietor's wife, Mrs. Sullivan, was friendly and curious about the new lady at the Archer ranch. "It's just a temporary arrangement," Zara explained, uncomfortable with the woman's knowing smile. "That's not what people are saying," Mrs. Sullivan replied, measuring out yards of gingham. "Word is Dawson Archer hasn't taken his eyes off you since you arrived." Zara was saved from responding by Dawson's arrival. His expression darkened when he saw Mrs. Sullivan's eager face, clearly aware of the gossip circulating. "Are you finding everything you need?" he asked Zara, pointedly ignoring the shopkeeper's wife. "Yes, thank you," Zara replied, gathering her purchases. Outside, Dawson's jaw was tight with annoyance. "I apologize for Mrs. Sullivan. Small towns breed big talk. It's all right," Zara assured him. "I'm not offended." Dawson visibly relaxed. "Would you like to have lunch at the hotel before we head back? They serve a decent meal." The hotel dining room was nearly empty when they arrived, affording them a quiet corner table with a view of the street. As they ate, Dawson shared news from town. The remaining Blackwood gang members had been spotted crossing into Wyoming territory, and a telegraph had been sent to alert authorities there. "With Blackwood gone, they'll likely disband," he explained. "The danger has passed." Relief washed over Zara, followed quickly by an unexpected pang of uncertainty. With the threat removed, her reason for remaining at the ranch suddenly seemed less clear. As if reading her thoughts, Dawson said quietly, "You know you're welcome to stay at the ranch as long as you wish, Mrs. Cooper would be devastated if you left." "Only Mrs. Cooper?" Zara asked, surprising herself with her boldness. Dawson's eyes softened. "No, not only Mrs. Cooper." Their ride back to the ranch was companionable, the tension between them transformed into something warm and expectant. Dawson pointed out landmarks and shared stories of his childhood exploring the wilderness with his father. As they approached a clear stream bordered by cottonwoods, he suggested they stop to rest the horses. The afternoon was warm, the buzzing of insects and the gentle gurgle of water creating a peaceful backdrop. "My father proposed to my mother under trees just like these," Dawson said, helping Zara dismount. "Back in Virginia before they came west." "It must have been a difficult adjustment for her," Zara observed, stretching her legs. Dawson nodded, leading the horses to drink. "She never truly adapted. After he died, there was nothing keeping her here." "Except you," Zara said softly. "I was a grown man with my own life," Dawson replied, though a shadow crossed his face. "She's happier back east among her society friends." Zara sensed the old wound beneath his words. "Not everyone is suited to this life," she said carefully. "It takes a certain strength, a certain love of the land." "And you?" Dawson asked, his eyes searching hers. "Do you find anything here worth staying for?" The question hung between them, weighted with meaning. Zara took a deep breath, courage welling within her. "I'm beginning to think I've found exactly where I belong." Dawson moved closer, reaching out to tuck a stray strand of hair behind her ear. "I've felt that way since the moment I found you on that porch." Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, a question asked and answered in the language of touch. When they parted, Zara saw her own wonder reflected in Dawson's eyes. "I never expected to find you," he murmured, his thumb tracing the curve of her cheek. "I never expected to be found," she replied, leaning into his touch. Back at the ranch, Mrs. Cooper took one look at their faces and smiled knowingly but said nothing, simply announcing that dinner would be ready in an hour. That evening, after the meal was cleared away and Mrs. Cooper had retired to her room, Dawson and Zara sat on the porch swing, watching as stars appeared in the darkening sky. "I want to court you properly," Dawson said, his hand warm around hers. "If you'll allow it." Zara smiled, happiness bubbling up inside her. "I believe you've already started, Mr. Archer." "There will be talk," he warned. "People wondering about your circumstances, how you came here." "Let them talk," Zara replied with newfound confidence. "What matters is what's between us, not what others think." The summer days flowed one into the next, filled with work and laughter and increasingly stolen moments of tenderness. Dawson taught Zara to shoot, declaring that every woman on the frontier should know how to defend herself. In return, she convinced him to dance with her in the kitchen when Mrs. Cooper was visiting her sister in town, his initial reluctance giving way to genuine enjoyment as they waltzed to music only they could hear. Word spread throughout the community about Dawson Archer's beautiful Eastern lady, and invitations to social gatherings began to arrive. Zara attended church suppers and barn dances on Dawson's arm, her initial nervousness fading as she was welcomed into the tight-knit community. Not everyone was pleased with the development. Victoria Summers, daughter of a neighboring rancher who had set her cap for Dawson for years, made her displeasure known with cutting remarks disguised as concern. "It must be difficult for you," she said to Zara during a quilting bee, her voice saccharine sweet. "Adapting to our simple ways after your sophisticated Eastern upbringing." "Actually, I find the honesty of life here refreshing," Zara replied evenly. "In Philadelphia, people rarely say what they mean. Here, I always know where I stand." Victoria's smile tightened. "Of course, some would say your position is precarious, living under a bachelor's roof without family to chaperone." Several women nearby stopped their sewing to listen, eyes wide at Victoria's boldness. I'm fortunate that Mrs. Cooper provides both companionship and propriety, Zara countered, her voice calm despite her racing heart. And Mr. Archer has been nothing but a gentleman. For now, Victoria sniffed. Men have needs, Miss Daniels, especially men like Dawson Archer. That's quite enough, Victoria, interjected Mrs. Peterson, the pastor's wife. Miss Daniels has conducted herself with perfect dignity since arriving in Silver Creek. We do well to show Christian charity rather than suspicion. Victoria retreated, but Zara knew the encounter was merely the first salvo in what could become an ongoing battle. That evening, she recounted the conversation to Dawson as they walked along the creek that bordered the ranch. Victoria Summers has convinced herself she's in love with me since we were children, Dawson sighed, shaking his head. I've never given her any encouragement. She seems to believe she has a claim on you, Zara observed, trying to keep jealousy from coloring her voice. Dawson stopped walking and turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. The only woman with any claim on me is standing right here, he said firmly. Don't let Victoria or anyone else make you doubt that. Reassured, Zara squeezed his hands. I don't. But perhaps we should consider formalizing our arrangement for propriety's sake. A slow smile spread across Dawson's face. Miss Daniels, are you proposing to me? Zara laughed, the tension broken. I'm merely suggesting that if you were planning to propose, I wouldn't be opposed to hearing the question. Dawson pulled her close, his expression turning serious. I was waiting for the right moment. I wanted everything to be perfect. This moment seems perfect to me, Zara whispered. Without another word, Dawson knelt before her, still holding her hands. Zara Daniels, from the moment I found you on that porch, my life changed in ways I never imagined possible. You've brought light and laughter back to my home and to my heart. Would you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife? Tears of joy blurred Zara's vision as she nodded. Yes, she managed to say. Yes, with all my heart. Dawson rose and kissed her, a kiss that held promises of all the years stretching before them. They were married 3 weeks later in the Silver Creek Church, with Mrs. Cooper beaming like a proud mother and the entire community in attendance, even Victoria Summers, whose tight smile couldn't dampen the joy of the occasion. Zara wore a dress of ivory satin ordered specially from Denver, and Dawson looked handsome and slightly uncomfortable in a new suit. I do, Zara said clearly when the pastor asked if she took Dawson to be her lawfully wedded husband, her heart so full she thought it might burst. I do, Dawson echoed moments later, his voice steady and sure. The celebration afterward at the Archer Ranch lasted well into the night, with music and dancing and enough food to feed the county twice over. When the last guests had departed, Dawson swept Zara into his arms and carried her across the threshold of their home, no longer just his, but theirs. Welcome home, Mrs. Archer, he murmured against her lips. Their life together settled into a rhythm that suited them both. Zara took over management of the household, introducing refinements that made the ranch house more comfortable without sacrificing its practical nature. Dawson consulted her on business decisions, valuing her keen mind and fresh perspective. In the evenings, they often sat on the porch swing, watching the sunset paint the sky in magnificent colors. During one such evening a year after their wedding, Zara turned to her husband with a secretive smile. I have something to tell you, she said, taking his hand and placing it on her still flat stomach. Dawson's eyes widened in understanding, joy suffusing his features. A baby, you're sure? Zara nodded, laughing as he pulled her into a gentle embrace. Dr. Williams confirmed it yesterday. We should expect our new arrival in early spring. Are you happy? Dawson asked, studying her face. Happier than I ever dreamed possible, Zara assured him. When I think of how we met, how close I came to never knowing you. It was meant to be, Dawson said with conviction. I was meant to find you that day. On a bright April morning, after a difficult but ultimately successful labor, Zara gave birth to a healthy baby girl they named Catherine Elizabeth Archer, after both their mothers. Dawson held his daughter with tears in his eyes, overwhelmed by the fierce love that instantly consumed him. "She's perfect," he whispered, gazing down at the tiny face with its dusting of dark hair. "She is," Zara agreed, exhausted but radiant. "Our little miracle." 2 years later, Catherine, nicknamed Cat for her curious nature, was joined by a brother, William James Archer, who arrived with considerably less drama but equal celebration. Life wasn't always easy. Drought threatened the ranch one summer, forcing Dawson to sell off part of his herd at reduced prices to ensure the remaining cattle had enough water and grazing. A harsh winter brought illness that confined both children to bed for weeks, Zara and Mrs. Cooper taking turns applying cool compresses to fever-hot foreheads while Dawson paced the floor below, anxiety etched in every line of his face. But through it all, they faced each challenge together, their bond strengthening with each obstacle overcome. The hunger and desperation that had once driven Zara to sleep on a stranger's porch became a distant memory, replaced by the abundance of love and family that filled their lives. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Dawson surprised Zara with a trip to Denver, their first real vacation since their honeymoon. Mrs. Cooper agreed to watch the children, now 7 and 5, assuring the worried parents that all would be well in their absence. In the privacy of their hotel room, after an evening of fine dining and a performance at the theater, Dawson presented Zara with a velvet box containing a gold locket. "Open it," he urged. Inside was a tiny photograph of their family on one side and on the other, a miniature painting of the abandoned homestead where they had first met. "To remember where we started," Dawson explained, helping her fasten it around her neck. Zara touched the locket reverently. "As if I could ever forget. You saved my life that day." Dawson shook his head, drawing her into his arms. "No, my love, you saved mine. I was existing, not living, until you came along." Outside their window, the city hummed with activity, so different from the peaceful ranch they called home. But in each other's arms, they found the only home that truly mattered, the one they had built together, founded on a promise made by a cowboy to a hungry girl on a porch, a promise kept through all the years and challenges that followed. "I love you, Dawson Archer," Zara whispered against his lips. "And I love you, Zara Archer," he replied. "Until my last breath and beyond." As they drifted to sleep, Zara thought of the winding path that had brought her west, of the desperation and hunger that had seemed like the end of her story but had actually been just the beginning. Some might call it luck or coincidence that Dawson had found her that day, but Zara knew better. It was destiny, two souls meant to find each other across the vast wilderness, meant to build a life rich with love and purpose. She had never missed another meal, just as he promised. But what Dawson had truly given her was so much more: a family, a home, a love that sustained her in ways food never could. And in return, she had given him the same, filling the emptiness in his life with joy and companionship. From hunger to abundance, from loneliness to love, their story had unfolded exactly as it was meant to. Beneath the endless sky of the Montana wilderness, they both now called home.